Nostalgic tone of the 1990s seems to make people appreciate just how good the time really was. 4:3 aspect ratio with frame rates out of a potato PC. That quirky but weirdly good soundtracks. And as I belong to this country known as Bharat, I especially love this song. Sure, it's the soundtrack of the Nepal track, but I do relate to it. And the best part, it was a great time for interesting cars to exist where there is no cloud culture to ruin any sort of car. Even JDM cars that I talked about earlier. It was a bliss. And of course, as you guys liked the Isdera video I made months ago, I wanted to talk about another forgotten supercar of the 1990s. The Diablo's little brother, Lamborghini Italdesign CALA. Hope you got the sign. Because for once, I have a goal. To have 1000 subscribers till the end of this year 2024. So I would appreciate it if you subscribe. Thank you. You know, Need for Speed must sometimes learn from the past, where they featured very obscure supercars to our gentle eyes. And also most want NFS2 SE is quite dated, and if you play it for the first time today, you might not even like it. The graphics are dated, the 3 driving modes are frankly useless. The handling of cars is uncontrollable at times, and you can cheese the opponent's cars just by driving like a woman. But the positive things about the game was the great soundtrack, crazy fast and cool cars, and for us, nostalgia and the information about the machines we drive no matter how obscure the thing really was. And one of those cars was the Italdesign CALA. A C-class car in the game with decent top speed and acceleration but good handling and brakes for its class. And also it was on the cover of the game. It was made for Lamborghini as it was going to be the replacement of the Yalpa, which was discontinued in 1998. After that, Lamborghini started brainstorming to rival the Ferrari 355, a mid-tier supercar at the time. So they prepared a supercar named the P140 project, but as the company was suffering from financial crisis at the time, of course it was the 90s, it was cancelled. But all was not lost. After a few years, a man was ready to revive and redesign the replacement for the Yalpa. His name was Giorgetto Giugiaro. He was from an independent design studio named Italdesign, hence the name. The skills and experience of Giorgetto led to this beauty of a car with the same P140 chassis and the engine supplied by Lamborghini themselves. Then in 1995, it was finally unveiled to the Geneva Motor Show. And it wasn't just a show car, it was a proper running and functioning prototype, tested by many journalists and said that it is a good car and handling was also great. And it lived up to Lamborghini standards. But I must say something about the design. This design was a roller coaster ride for me. I loved it when I was a child, then wasn't sure when I grew older, but now I firmly believe that this car is pretty. You might not be sure, and that's okay, but for those who appreciate it, there is a surprise for you. because here is the art of this car's beautiful design with the best angle shot that I have seen on it. So if you're interested in this unique physical art, the link would be in the description below. As this keeps me away from tying myself to external sponsorships, I don't want to do that. But back to the show. The performance figures were not bad either. 0 to 60 miles per hour time was under 5 seconds and the top speed of 180 miles per hour or 291 kilometers per hour. As said before, it was light and agile because of its aluminum chassis and carbon fiber body, which made the car's body weight just under 1300 kilograms, more specifically 1290 kg. I'm not converting. The best part was the engine. The 4-liter naturally aspirated rear mid-mounted V10 producing 400 brake horsepower and 350 Newton meters of torque to the rear wheels with max RPM range of 7500 connected to a 6-speed manual transmission. You know, I sense a predecessor here. But, and this is a big one, it never made it into production. Surprise, right? It was sold when Lamborghini company was sold to the Germans. Yup, Audi completely sidelined the project because they wanted to make more versions of the Diablo, I guess, and it was forgotten to the eyes of the public. But all was not lost, as we shall see. Just like my last video where I criticized the Is there a Commendatore? I know 112i, whether it would have survived in the brutal time that was the 90s era for supercars, where a rich businessman was spoiled for choices. And if he can only select one car, I think he would have gone to other cars such as McLaren F1, and maybe if he wants to feel like a screaming V12 is welded into his spine, so he chooses the Ferrari F50. The real punch in the face would have been Pagani, since both cars had the same Mercedes V12 engine. But I know what I would have chosen. Anyway, the point is, could the Calà have survived the competition back then? And I have a good news for you all this time. It would have survived, as it was not competing with the top dogs. Its main rival was the Ferrari F355, which was also in the game of NFS2 SE, and as they are going for each other's throat when it comes to performance figures, which was roughly around the same, and as it was a Lamborghini, people would have definitely bought it because the Diablo was a top tier Lamborghini and you had that car or you did not. It was just as simple as that. But having a baby Lambo was much more viable, which brings me to an analogy. So bear with me. It's the spiritual predecessor to the Gallardo, which was the most sold Lamborghini model in its production days. People loved the idea of buying a baby Lambo, but a Lambo regardless, and it had sold over 14,000 units, which actually made Lamborghini a very profitable brand since their dire years in the 1990s and before. So with that in mind, I think the Calà concept would have survived the onslaught that was the 90s with the title Baby Lambo. So that would be my conclusion, and if you really want to see this car through your own eyes, you can look it up in Italdesign's museum. And with that, back to the studio.